I actually wrote a little note about this before the call, just because I thought, how do I write an essay? Because it's so hard when you're not actually thinking about the process and it just comes naturally. But first of all, I said that you read the question and you find out what's expected of you. So like what Trudy was saying, like break the question up so you know exactly what's been asked. And I remember Trudy, you actually helping me with that and just saying, think really what is it asking, don't just babble for the sake. And then I wrote that if you chunk your essays like into like smaller parts, so just think like it's a 2,000 word count, so you've got to have 200 for the 250 for your intro, 250 for your conclusion, and roughly 500 for the main body, and you're going to cover three main points in your essay. So like breaking it down and chunking it down into main points, doing readings about the points and writing a paragraph at a time, and then at the end going back and writing your intro and conclusion and making sure it all reads well. Is that the way you do it, Trudy, or do you do it a wee bit different?
I mean, like I like some of the points are similar. Some I would really look at the question, what are they asking me? I'd also look, how they gave you, they broke down the marks, what would be considered, outstanding and, satisfactory. So I would go look at those criteria always again to remind me what they were really looking for. And then there's something like a lot of uni students would skip it. They would always at the end of the module coming up to the essay question, they would always give like a lecture. And during that lecture, they would often signpost what they wanted from the questions. And I used to really go back and look at that because often I could find, oh, they've talked about this and this is how they've broken it up. I wonder if I can do something similar. And if I find through my research the flow is changing a bit, I can adjust it. But those lectures were actually a lot of use, and a lot of students tend to go, oh, it's just about the essay, I'll just skip it. But it often was very helpful. And you often got to ask questions about it. So you might have had an idea of what you thought the question meant or which way you were going to go with the question. But then when you asked the lecturer about it, sometimes your mind would change. So I think often people will skip it, but it's really useful to go to those sessions. And also your tutorials, because sometimes again they'll talk to you more in depth about it. And often as well, what I would do with research, they had recommended readings, but I found when you read those research papers, then you would find, I think it is called snowballing, because we learned that in our dissertation. You'd find other authors that had written about it, and then you'd go look that up, and that would help you build up your research, because sometimes it's difficult to think, where am I going to start with this research, as well. And then also just became better at using the advanced searches on the databases as well. The university give you, just messing about and practicing with that and just seeing what you get. And yeah, that's kind of how I would tackle mine. And I would always do a lot of note taking, like breaking it down like a plan, and then I would start writing. And sometimes if I got stuck, I would have to leave it for a while, just to, because sometimes when you're at work for so long, you kind of
have a writer's block.
And if you keep trying to go, often it will end up, I don't know about you, Sinead, crying over your laptop.
I don't know what to do. Yeah. And you just need to take a break.
Yeah, you need to take a break sometimes, and even talking to other people saying, oh, this is how I thought I was going to answer this question, what did you think? I know you and I used to chat sometimes, and that's how we go, oh, I answered it slightly different, but we're more or less touching the same big points, So I think also talking to, having like a network that you can talk to about what you're writing, I think that's helpful.
Just to add as well, like I know people sometimes say, oh, they work better under pressure, but for that point of having the writing block, like if you had a writing block and you're under pressure, like, and you have got no time. So another part of advice I would say is always start early, because then you've got time to change it and make it right. And then also with references, which just now seem like nothing, but at the beginning for me I found that really difficult. If you read a piece of literature, just either note take on your computer what it is, the publisher, and then write notes about important things and reference as you go. I used a database called Mendeley. I don't know what you use, Trudy, or if you used one.
I was very old school. I was terrible because I'm not great with technology. I used to actually make a physical note of it, just write it
just
down.
doing it. Well, see, I would do that. See, as I was reading it, I would write the notes down, and then what I would do is, if I was going to use it, I would go into this database on the computer mentally, just add it what it is, the publisher, or the norm, and then when I was typing essay in Word, it links to that. So you just go add reference, and then you type, I don't know, Sue Ellis, and then it will reference Sue Ellis, and then at the very end you just click insert bibliography, and it does all for you in whatever style your reference is. So if I could give them data, it would be use the Mendeley. I know, Trudy, you're old school, but I was just like that same.
Also, see, when you go into the library, if you've read an article or something, there's a button where you right click and it just gives you the citation in whatever Harvard, APR, whatever you want. And
so you can just...
So I just used to go, oh, I like this article, copy the reference over, and just, it was there.
And it was there, so whoever doing
so I didn't write it out, but I just would go right-click copy, and it would put it out, because it was through the library's database. I don't know if many people knew that you could go to.
No, I never knew that.
Buttons, and it just had the reference there, and you could change it to any style that you wanted as well.
And copy and paste it. I found that database was really useful when you go back to do your dissertation, because see all your readings that you've done throughout your whole uni career, you can add that in at the end.
It worked better than I expected, but I'm always someone who's a bit like, oh, I'm going to do rubbish, and then then it's okay. But I was quite pleased with my degree results.
I think I was happy with the end result, but during it I did struggle a lot with the writing essays, especially around about the first, second year. And even third year I found it quite tricky. It wasn't until fourth year and you're finally getting the hang of things. For me personally, I know you're really good at reading and writing, Trudy, much better than me. So I really did struggle with that, but eventually it just comes to you, and as long as you're putting the work in, doing the readings, going along, chatting to people, you can do it. And the penny drops,
I think, I still had the same doubts when I was doing my essays. I used to really think, is this going to even pass? I had a lot of, it's quite emotional writing your essay, because it's a piece of work, and sometimes it's a long time before you get feedback from it. So you're sitting there thinking, I'm going to pass it.
And also just another point I was going to add is what we used to do is get somebody to read over it and check it. Just get somebody to read over it, fresh pair of eyes, check it makes sense, check the grammar, see if there's anything that they would change, and then that makes you feel like you can actually submit it, and then you've got your essay and your degree.